Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 39th part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 212, The Greatest Good. Alright, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. Izuku said as he sat in an unfamiliar room. This room was the Midoriya Foundation meeting room. A place located in one of the Midoriya Foundation's offices away from his home. He was sitting at a table, with several important people to his foundation. There was Mai, head of his scientific and research branch. A black-haired woman, Kopo Reto, head of his corporate affairs, doing most of the work to keep the business side of the foundation running. Then there was a large burly dark-skinned man, Tochiona, who was in charge of overseeing land ownership and maintenance. After that, there was a blue-haired man with closed eyes, Gukoza Kitaboshi, head of public relations, advertising, and government dealings. Lastly, there was a small green goblin-like man, Gobo Line, representing the budgeting division that oversaw the overall budget of the Midoriya Foundation. Now that our negotiations with the other nations over Cronus are drawing to a close, I think it's time we finally made plans for what the company will do in the future, Izuku said, sitting at the head of the long table. Firstly, I'd like to extend the Midoriya Foundation's caretaking of OPCs to become a worldwide thing. That would raise some issues. Most other countries don't have the same kind of policies as Japan. Tochi was brought up. And while we could force some policies on smaller, less powerful countries, more powerful nations will prove problematic, as they often integrate children with powerful quirks into hero training programs. We can take care of that with a combination of propaganda and lobbying, Gukoza said. We hold a massive amount of power, influence, and public trust. Convincing people to do things our way won't be hard. And none of that will leave even a dent in our wallets, Gobo said. Good. Secondly, I'd like to expand our quirk eraser program, Izuku added. Of course, I'd like to be selective, but people with disabilities, due to their quirks, should have the ability to be rid of them if they so please. Isn't that a bit dangerous? Mai asked. If we start making and shipping the formula more, that means some people are inevitably going to steal it. Well, it's not as if their effects can't be cured. And as much as I hate the formula getting out there, I hate the idea of leaving these people to suffer even more. That might be more difficult. I doubt other countries will want to have such things circulating throughout their countries without them being in control of them. Gukoza pointed out. Although perhaps we can convince them if it gives them good publicity. And some bribes. We'll have to be patient if we don't want another worldwide meltdown. Speaking of which, how are things going with de-escalation worldwide? Izuku asked. We've transported several of our new robot masters around the world to assist in minimizing the destruction. We just need to announce their presence and release them, Mai added. Very good. Now, speaking of scientific developments, I've finally decided on a way to handle a problem we've been facing for a while now. Izuku said. As you all know, my approach to scientific development is that since you can't stop it, the best way to keep it from hurting anyone is to control it. Everyone nodded. Since we have a monopoly on chaos technology, I've been able to keep its development under control somewhat easily, and keep any dangerous experiments from happening, Izuku told them. However, this will not be the case forever. At some point in the future, people will be able to freely research chaos energy. And there is a good chance they won't have our level of restraint. I've been racking my brain over a solution to this, and I've finally come up with one. Angel Island. Angel Island? Mai repeated, her curiosity piqued. I propose we raise an island out of the ocean and into the sky, and make it a place where scientists can do all the reckless and dangerous experiments they could ever want, Izuku revealed. Everyone gave him confused/befuddled looks. As if Izuku had just told them the sky was red. Come again? Kopo asked, adjusting her glasses as she and everyone else regained their composure. Well, it's not feasible, Mai said. Using a Chaos Emerald, we could make a large piece of land into the air. Honestly, that's the least iffy part of what you just suggested. Sir, you are aware of the possible dangers of chaos energy, correct? That's why I'm proposing this in the first place. Izuku reiterated. Eventually, people are going to do the more dangerous experiments. And I'd rather have that in a controlled environment, instead of in the middle of a city. If we can find a way to make sure that nothing that happens on that island will affect the outside world, then we can prevent thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands or even millions of casualties. That's true, but what about the people on the island? Mai asked. If something happens, they'd be trapped there. Their deaths would be a certainty. Izuku sighed and shifted uncomfortably. I know that. But the people willing to do these experiments are the people willing to risk their lives for the sake of pursuing new knowledge. And once again, if they don't do these experiments here, they won't guarantee they'll live. It just means they have a chance to get a lot more people killed. Everyone went silent. As crazy as the idea sounded, and as cruel as some of the details seemed, they couldn't deny that Izuku had a point. They had a responsibility as the current controls of chaos tech, to keep chaos energy from causing mass casualties. And this sounded like the best way to do so. Well, budget-wise, we can likely ask for assistance from countries worldwide. I doubt they'd want people ripping holes in reality inside of their own nations, so this might be in their best interest as well. Gobo pointed out. Good. I'm trusting you all to execute this well. Izuku concluded. Now, onto my next project proposal. I want to help out those who've run out of options. Good people who've been hurt by the randomness and cruelty of the world and have nowhere to go. So you want to start some kind of shelter? Tochi asked. No, too small. Izuku shook his head. I was thinking of a massive underground city. Once again, everyone proceeded to look at him like he was crazy. Sir, you're at 10 right now, we need you at 7, Tochi asked as he rubbed his temples. I have to disagree. With what we're working with, there is no room for thinking small. Izuku told them. We have the ability to help people on a massive scale. And I intend to do so. Now, Mai, you said that Uchi was making some kind of terraforming thing. Could that help us with what I'm proposing? You mean the planet egg? Mai asked. Yes, please remind me about that again, Izuku asked. Yes, sir. The planet egg is an orb-shaped plant, with the ability to massively shift the terrain of the area around it. From the flora to the landscape to even the weather. It's also very intelligent and benevolent. Its survival tactic seems to be, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It changes and maintains the terrain, while we protect and sustain it. However, there is currently an issue with it, in that it requires a massive amount of chaos energy to keep it alive. We have to have several chaos engines hooked up to it just to keep it alive. Would a chaos emerald help with that? Izuku asked. It might? Mai shrugged. Then try it, Izuku told her. And tell me the result. After that, we'll continue this discussion. For now, let's move on. I'd like to start the Midoriya Youth Support Program. First, I'd like to start buying up and opening orphanages around the country. I'd really like to lower the number of kids on the street. I want all these orphanages to be funded and overseen by Midoriya Foundation personnel, and very closely inspected. Education and disciplinary programs will be strict, of course, and no quirk discrimination will be allowed. And quirk counseling will be available, and potentially mandatory depending on the child. Speaking of which, I'd also like to go on an advertising campaign for quirk counseling and anti-quirkism, and start lobbying for anti-quirkism measures to be taken in schools. We can also use this as a way to out-quirkist. Wonderful. I'll begin work immediately. Gokoza said. Good. Now Mai, have you drawn up blueprints for the interdimensional space station? Izuku asked. Not yet. Making a station that can stay inside the collective unconscious is difficult due to the massive amounts of chaos energy in there. Mai explained. Do you have any idea what it would cost us? Gobo asked. It'll be expensive, even for us, but not overly so, Mai explained. Although that depends on when I complete the design. By then we might have significantly increased our revenue. Please tell me when you can complete the design, so we can discuss the budget more in depth. Gobo said. All right. Speaking of budget, are we prepared to launch the Hurricane fleet? Izuku asked. If we speed up production, the fleet should be finished in just a couple of days, Mai explained. And the second fleet? Izuku asked. Production of that fleet has gone much faster. Mostly due to the fact that the flagship has already been made. And the augmentations to it were far easier than they were to most Grim. Mai continued. The fleet should be done by tomorrow morning. Perfect. Izuku smiled. That was the more important one anyway. Speaking of importance. Update on the Gammas? Nearing completion. Programming and testing are all that's left. Mai explained. They'll be ready for what's to come. Good. One last thing. Izuku said as he stood up. We'll be having a party at the Midoriya Foundation to celebrate Yami's birthday. Lasting for about 3 days. All of you are invited, of course. Everyone gave him confused looks. Is this some kind of trap for our enemies? Mai asked. Because it seems kinda obvious. That's the point, Izuku told them. We need to find a way to pinpoint the day of their attack. Since they know they only have 5 days before All Might come back, that helps us tremendously. So the best way to figure out when they'll attack is to figure out when they won't attack. If they think the party is an obvious trap, they'll likely try to attack on days after the party has passed. Which leaves only 2 days in which they'll attack. However, if they attack on the 4th day, that's when my forces will be ready. They'll be walking into the real trap. And if they attack on the 5th? Gobo asked. That'll be the best result, Izuku explained. Because they think All Might will be back in 5 days. But it's actually 4. I've planned for All Might to return on the 4th night in secret and stay over at my house. So if they decide to attack, then our victory is near certain. Oh! Everyone clapped as they started to understand the genius of Izuku's plan. All except for Gobo. But sir, what if they do attack on the days of the party? That would be the worst-case scenario, but not the absolute worst. Several pro heroes should be attending, so we'll have some more forces than normal. Izuku said. But it would be best if we could discourage them from attacking on those days. Mai, I'd like you to have a bit of a lab accident, something flashy and dangerous looking that can be seen from all the way in the city. It'll add to the feeling that the party is the trap. Understood, sir, Mai said, as she was already starting to think of several things she could do. All right. Then we're done here. Izuku said. Remember everyone. Be safe, and never let your guard down. Chapter 213, More Shorts. Fuku thought deeply, as she considered what she'd be making for breakfast. She was thinking of pancakes, but she was worried that everyone might be getting sick of pancakes by now. Given how fond she was of sweets, she had made them quite often, and so now she needed a way to spice things up. That's when she remembered something she found online a while ago. Well, I've never tried this before, so I just have to hope it works, Fuku said to herself, as she got to work. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX the taste of heaven entered his mouth. On his plate was a pancake, but not a regular one. Instead of syrup, the top of the pancake was coated in butter and sprinkled with sugar. The butter and sugar glistened on top of the pancake, giving it an appetizing glisten. The soft pancake and the smooth texture of the melted butter complemented the crunchy sugar, which would pop in your mouth. The slightly salty taste of the butter only enhanced the sweetness of the sugar, making it the perfect treat. These were the perfect treat. Delicious. Kiba said, giving a pleased hum as she stuffed her face, alongside everyone else in the dining hall. I can feel my organs crying out in disappointment, but I don't care, it tastes so good. Nara added. I'm gonna have to exercise for the rest of the day to work off this weight, but it's worth it. Sheena pointed out. Whoever Fuku marries is gonna be the luckiest person in the world, Sori said while she cowed down. Impossible. I'll never let my little/big sister get married. Kiba and Kyoku said at the same time, while still eating. Rest assured, Mr. Midoriya, I will never allow someone to take your daughter away. Be they villains or suitors. Sai said, although no one could see her behind her pile of pancakes. All of you stop being selfish. Fuku's life and choices are her own. Izuku said. Hey, I don't think you'll have to worry about that. I doubt I'll ever find someone who'd want to get married to me. And I definitely don't think I'll ever leave the foundation. Fuku said. You, unless you want me to. You've done so much for me that I'd fully understand if you wanted me to leave and dash. BRRRRRRRR. BRRRRRRRRR. Kiba suddenly started making alarm noises. Self-deprecation alarm. It's time to issue emergency hugs. What? No. No. Fuku immediately stood up and started running as fast as she could. After her. She will not escape. Kiba shouted as she got up and led the charge. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Kerthunk. Suddenly a sharp arrow-shaped bone flew into a tree, embedding itself inside of it, the tree trunk. And standing a few feet away, was Fu. Using Kyosei, he had turned his arm into a crossbow. And the arrows, his own bones. Not strong enough. Let's make it tighter. Fu said, as Kyosei broke another bone, and placed it on his arm crossbow. One of Fu's biggest weaknesses is that his long-range attacks were limited, and left him exposed. He didn't have any projectiles. Until he realized something. Why not just take off a piece of his body, and use that as a projectile? Bones were obvious. But the real question was how he'd use them. Throwing them wouldn't be enough, and he couldn't try anything gun-like because it generated heat, which Kyosei took issue with. So something like a bow or crossbow would be needed. After doing some research on the crossbow, he managed to recreate it using Kyosei. Alright. Let's try again. Fu aimed his arm at the tree. Skeleton shot. Kerthunk. The bone arrow shot through the tree, going through it entirely this time. Alright, that works, Fu said as Kyosei transformed his arm back to normal. Now let's try the other move. A sling formed in Fu's hand and small pieces of bones came out and filled it. Then Fu started swinging the sling around at max power, causing it to look like a blur. Skeleton sling, Fu said the special attack name, before unleashing the attack. Crack! The bone fragments shot out of the sling and slammed into various trees, hitting them so hard that it made massive cracks in them. Quickly the trees lost stability and fell over. Fu looked at the result. Skeleton sling was definitely stronger than skeleton shot. However, it was harder to aim and took longer to fire. I'll have to keep working on it. Fu sighed. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Sai repeated to herself. Currently, Sai was in the security room, watching over the cameras, with Suri right next to her. And she was in a Barney the dinosaur suit. You know, I may be dumb, but I'm smart enough to know you have questions, Suri said, her voice muffled by the mascot suit. Well, then I don't need to ask. Start explaining, Sai urged/demanded. Okay, so I got stuck in the air, and the boss got mad at me, so he put me in the Barney suit of shame as a punishment, Suri explained. After that, there was silence, as Sai waited for a continuation of the explanation, which would never come. That's it. What the hell does any of that mean? How did you get stuck in the air? Why does Mr. Midoriya have Barney the dinosaur costume? What is any of this? Sai asked, her confusion boiling over into frustration. I dunno. Sai shrugged. You'll have to ask the boss about it. Did she want to do that? Did she really want to bother her extremely busy boss over this nonsense? Did she really want to bother herself with this any more than she already had? No. No, she didn't. And so she sat back down next to her companion in the Barney suit and decided to just not think about it. Chapter 214, War Preparations. Destro looked over his city, with a wineglass in his hand. Skeptic, have I been a good leader? Skeptic paused his constant typing and looked up at his leader. Of course, sir. We've had a few unfortunate incidents. But that's not a fault of your leadership. I'm not so sure. Destro said as he looked at his reflection in his glass. I should have stopped antagonizing Midoriya after the first attack failed. He's become too powerful, and it's all because of me. Sir, there's no way you could have predicted Skeptic was cut off. That attack was an omen, Skeptic. Destro continued. Even if he had not increased his power and influence, I still wouldn't have been able to justify continuing to go after him. It simply wouldn't have been worth the time and resources. And especially not worth bringing us to public attention. I allowed myself to lose control. And that was unacceptable. But that's not all. You see, I've been wondering about the traitors. Pa, you should not concern yourself with such a spoiled brat. Once again Skeptic was cut off. Don't call them that. Destro said softly but sharply. They've been far from spoiled. I found that they were treated quite unfittingly. Did you know that they were both forced into our young operatives program? And that the rewards that should have gone to them were instead being given solely to their parents. Parents who in fact were treating their children like tools despite their children being superior to them. TCH. That would explain things. Damn traitors. Skeptic growled. But again, that's not your fault. If it were just those two, I might have agreed. Destro continued. But about half of the children in our Young Operatives program have gone through the same thing. Being used as tools when their parents should be the tools. How could I have overlooked this? If I had been a more attentive leader, these children wouldn't have betrayed me. And perhaps Midoriya would be dead by now. That's... Skeptic paused. Sir, where are you going with this? I'm going to step down as leader and participate in the next fight against Midoriya, myself. Destro revealed. What? But sir... There's no going back from this. Skeptic shouted, standing up so fast that his laptop fell to the ground. I know. This is the end for me. Destro said, in an oddly light tone. You know. I thought I would be angry. Like I had been all this time. But I feel relieved. And I can't for the life of me figure out why. Skeptic went quiet. It was clear he couldn't talk him out of this. So, he had no choice but to accept this decision and try to move forward. So what next? If you step down, our leadership will likely be fractured. I know, but perhaps that is for the best. It was my unquestionable position that led us here after all. Destro. I hope so. But enough of that. I'd like to enjoy these few days before the attack. Come, join me for a drink, won't you? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX bit missing. All for one chuckled. The evil overlord was currently sitting down, having dinner with another notable villain. The head of the Cold clan. The villain is known as King Cold. Yes, it's unfortunate what that brute did to you, my old friend. The fact that I didn't kill him when I had the chance will forever remain my biggest regret. King Cold said as he cut his steak. But to what do I owe the pleasure of this visit? As you are likely aware, there will be another raid on the Midoriya Foundation. One on a much larger scale. All for One revealed. Yes, I was wondering when you'd invite me. I would love to get my hands on their technology. King Cold said. And I know my oldest has been aching for it as well. Perhaps with it, he can do something worthwhile. Well, I did want to invite you, but it's not quite what you would expect. All for One told him. You see, Midoriya has been acting rather strangely. Do you mean that party he's throwing? Cold asked. Yes, I have to say that is some of the most obvious bait I've seen in my life. That's exactly what I was thinking. And that little accident with the skybeam only makes it more obvious. All for One frowned. I think Midoriya expects us to attack him on those days. Oh? Cold urged him to continue. I think Midoriya might be doing this as a way to buy him some more time. To lead us into a real trap. All for One speculated. After all, the days we have until All Might returns are limited. And that party limits the days to merely 2. 2 days are far easier for Midoriya to set a trap and get things in place. So we can't be certain if the most likely trap is the real trap. Cold surmised. How vexing. With Midoriya's resources, having a battle on his terms will be risky, to say the least. All for One revealed. But that does come with certain advantages. For example, Midoriya likely won't risk having his children or resources in harm's way. Meaning that he will likely hide them away from the battle. And if we can find them, while the majority of Midoriya's forces are away fighting the main battle, we can find the real treasure. Cold chuckled deviously. So regardless of the result of the overall battle, we still come out as the winners. As expected of you, old friend. Exactly. I'd like our forces to work together, and while the other 2 organizations keep Midoriya busy, we can reap the rewards. All for One said. It's perfect. With our combined power, we can overwhelm any defense Midoriya will have for the children. Will we be using those Nomu creatures? Cold asked as he took another bite of his steak. No, those will be busy filling out the ranks for the main attack. All for One said. Not to mention they aren't the greatest at retrieval. I'd rather have human minions take care of this. Fortunately, thanks to Stain, I recently acquired some rather useful ones. Oh? Did Stain join your ranks? I never thought someone that wild would ever bow his head before us. Cold remarked. He didn't. But since he technically was a part of the attack, a rumor that Stain was part of the League of Villains has spread. And since Stain is Stain and is not one to make public statements, I've been able to capitalize on that rumor. All for One explained. Ah, that makes sense. Well, personally, I'll be going all in on this attack. Cold said. This is the chance of the century, and I have no intention of passing it up. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX appeared in the background of the Midoriya Foundation. The backyard had been transformed into a party space, with of course all the children and staff around to celebrate the young lad's special day. Yami himself was at the center of everything, sitting on a chair with a black and red birthday cake in front of him. Around all of them were the guests. Pro-heroes, high-ranking and hard-working members of the Midoriya Foundation, as well as family members of the staff. Amai was also present, although not in person. Much to her chagrin, she was once again forced to participate via video call. "I wish I could be there to give you a big hug," Amai lamented. "Don't worry. I'll give super hug next time I see you," Yami told her, causing her to blush. Now. Today is a day for celebration. As is tomorrow, and the next day. Kiba cheered. Yami nodded. "I want everyone to be happy." Party. Alright, first let's see who can eat the most cake. Ken shouted, getting all the gluttonous kids hyped. I'm glad I and Izuku made so much cake, Fuku muttered to herself. As the kids descended down on the cakes, Sai was off to the side, awkwardly eating cake, alongside her mother, father, and daughter. Man, those kids sure are rowdy. Must be nice to have a dad. Konoshiro said, shooting her mother a dirty look. Sai's mother shot her a cold look, and she immediately shut up. Sai's mother was a very imposing figure. Who could be described as Sai, but bigger? In every way. Let's relax, everyone. No need to cause a stir, today's a day of celebration. Sai's father said. The man was a far departure from the rest of his family. With short red hair and a much softer look, you'd have never guessed he was Sai's father. Of course, father, Sai said. Pa. Konoshiro huffed. God, I wish there was alcohol. The lady thought as she ate some cake. Sorry lady, no drinking on the job. Or at kids' parties. Hawk said as he looked over at MT lady. How did you know what I was thinking? MT lady pouted. Everyone knew what you were thinking. It's written all over your face. Hawk said. You'd think with all the money you're getting paid, you'd be happier. I'm not a lady that enjoys being bored with hawks. Why do you think I became a hero? MT lady sighed. For money? Kamui Woods answered. Because you're an attention whore. Death Arms added. Oh, shut it. MT lady shouted, before angrily stuffing cake into her mouth. In a different corner were Mai and Uchi, looking at the kids who were stuffing their faces with amusement. They're so adorable. Uchi chuckled. Honestly, I'm kind of jealous of you, dear. I wish I could spend more time around here. I don't spend that much time around here. Although I did start mentoring a few of the kids. Mai said sheepishly. Uchi giggled. And my envy only grows. I'm going to have to start making more excuses to visit you more. Mai frowned. You need to see kids in order to want to see me more? Ha? Wait, no, that's not what I meant. Uchi rushed to clarify, only to stop when she saw her girlfriend smiling, and she pouted as she realized she was being teased. I told you to stop doing that. I just can't help it, my girlfriend is too cute. Mai giggled, taking a second to enjoy the moment, before getting serious again. But really, do you want one? Want one? Uchi repeated, confused by the question. A kid, Mai explained, with an intense blush. Uchi blushed just as intensely. Wa now? If that's what you want, then I wouldn't be opposed to it, Mai said. Well, I'm not necessarily opposed to it either, but I don't think now is the time. We have so much to deal with. I doubt we'd have enough time for them, and we're still both too young. Uchi explained sheepishly. Mai breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness you said that, because I really wasn't ready to deal with a kid on top of all this. Then why did you even ask? Uchi asked. Although she had a feeling she already knew the answer. Well, you were looking at the kids, and you said all that, so I thought you'd maybe want one, Mai said, her voice getting smaller and smaller the more she talked. Dear, if you agree to have a child when you're not ready, you will be sleeping on the couch for the rest of that year, Uchi told her sternly. Having a child is a massive commitment, and I won't have you doing that half-heartedly, just to please me. Understood? Yes ma'am, Mai said, half mesmerized and half scared. Chapter 215, Day of Gifts. If Yami had to describe his siblings' attitude, over the top would be accurate. After all, it was thanks to them that he was sitting on a throne with a crown on his head. Receiving presents. Eri was first. She came up to Yami, holding a basket of apples with a bow on it. I grew these myself, I hope you like them. She gave the basket to Yami, and he set it on his lap. Then he took out an apple and took a big bite out of it. Yami took in the succulent taste of the apple. It was firm and juicy. As all apples should be. Delicious. Eri smiled, and happily walked off, letting Kay come up behind her, with something she was holding behind her back. I know you'll love my present. I put my heart, soul, and scales into it. Kay said, as she brought her hands in front of her and revealed her gift. A small, and surprisingly well-made snake figurine. She handed it to Yami, who looked at it fondly. Cute. I knew it'd slither into your heart, Kay remarked, before going off to the side to allow Fu to come up next. Hey. Didn't really know what to get you, so I thought I'd piggyback off of Kay's idea. Fu said as he revealed a small figurine, a wooden recreation of the wyvern. Cool. Yami said as he took the figure and put it next to Kay's. Thanks, Fu. Fu nodded and moved away so Sansan could present her gift. Here you go. Sansan sang as she presented Yami with a wide glass bowl, full of red and black crystal flowers. Ta-da! Yami took the bowl, almost dropping it for a second because of how heavy it was, before putting it on the table beside him. Pretty. Very pretty. Thank you. At the very least, he was getting a lot of new decorations. Next up was Shiruku. I know I give you clothes all the time, so this may not be super special. But I did try a little bit extra on this one. Shiruku then took out a red scarf, with black patterns on it. Those patterns were the faces of his various Grimm. The Beowulf, the Wyvern, the Hound, etc. Yami took a close look at the scarf, and a small smile came to his face. I like it. I like it a lot. He immediately put on the new scarf, much to Shiruku's pleasure. I'm so glad you like it. I put my heart into it. Shiruku said as she stepped aside with a big smile on her face. After her, it was Otoko's turn. Otoko silently presented him with a pressed flower bookmark. Yami gave a nod of thanks, as Otoko walked to the side, letting Kai stomp up to him. Happy birthday, big bro! Kai said as he lowered his head, revealing the present. A small necklace with one of his scales on it. If you wear this, then we can always be together. No matter what. Yami smiled again, and took the necklace, putting it on under his scarf. Thank you. Little brother. Kai smiled. Remember to always wear it. Okay. Yami nodded, petting Kai's head for a moment before Kai moved out of the way so the next person could give him a present. That person was none other than Netsu. Alright, my turn. Netsu said as he came up to Yami with a canvas in his gloved hands. Alright, take a look at this. Netsu revealed the painting. It was one of the paintings he'd made with his own fire. This one was probably his best work. It was a smoky black wolf-like figure that one might say bore a resemblance to a Beowulf. It was crude, yet cool-looking, and Yami would definitely be hanging this in his bedroom. Yami gave him the thumbs up, and Netsu fist-pumped the air in celebration. Next year I'll make you an even better one. Just you wait. Netsu shouted as he ran to the side, allowing Ken and Nara to come up. With Nara holding a gift box in her hand. So, we actually worked together to make you this, Nara said as she presented Yami the box. Yami took the box onto his lap and opened it up. In it was a small drawing pad, a hologram emitter. It's a specially made drawing device that'll help you when you're making Grimm, Nara said. You can write down what you want the Grimm to do, and there's an AI assistant that'll help improve your drawings. You can also save your drawings to a special archive, so you can look over all your designs whenever you want. All this, thanks to Upgrade and Gray Matter. Ken said proudly. Yami's eyes went wide, and his mouth opened with astonishment. This is amazing. This was probably the only gift he would get, with some actual practical use. No longer would he be stuck with his rough sketches and have to search through drawers full of different papers to look for one particular design. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yami said enthusiastically, carefully putting it back in the box, to make sure it didn't break. Nara and Ken, thoroughly satisfied by getting that kind of response from Yami, stepped aside with pride, letting Nise come up nervously behind her.
Hey. So, I got you a pen.
Nise said nervously, knowing it wasn't exactly the most inspired gift in the world. She handed him a black and red pen, and he put it to the side.
Thanks.
Yami nodded, and Nise nervously moved to the side to let the next person come up.
AKA came up next. I also made a figure of my favorite of your creations, the Hound.
She presented him a small painted wooden figure of the Hound, which Yami knew for a fact Izuku helped her with, but it was still pretty neat.
Thank you, Yami said, as AKA moved aside to let Sheena go next. So, I can't really make anything, so I got you this. Sheena gave him a small slip of paper. Yami took the paper and saw what it said. One free favor.
Just give me that, and I'll do anything you ask, Sheena said nervously.
So, don't waste it.
Yami didn't really like the idea of this gift, but he couldn't exactly refuse it, so he just put it in his pocket.
Thanks.
Sheena then walked off, hoping everyone would just forget about everything that just happened. Next up was Alice, who had also been wearing her Yami birthday celebration outfit, which was a red and black dress, with fake Grimm heads all around it, as well as a top hat that looked like it had been melted, or made out of Yami's Grimm goop. Alice walked up to him, took off her hat, and then revealed that the hat actually had another hat inside it.
Ta-da! Now we have matching hats. Yami took the hat and put it on. Looks cool, somehow. Alice beamed and skipped off to the side.
Next up was Jin, who lazily strolled up to Yami with a black and red nightcap in hand.
Here you go. It's not super nice looking, but it's comfy. Yami nodded and put the nightcap on top of his other hat. Thanks.
Jin nodded and moved to go find a place to take a nap. That's when the triplets stepped up to the plate.
So we decided to work together to make you this present. Here it is. Yaba said as she revealed the present. A wolfskin hat. G found the world, I killed it, and Inu skinned it. Pretty cool, huh? Getting lots of hats.
Yami thought to himself as he put the hat on top of his other hats.
Cool. Thank you.
The girls looked pleased, and walked off to the side, to let Luke give him his present.
So, here.
Lu tossed over a handmade wooden figure of the Phylon.
Don't make a big deal about it. Yami gave a nod of appreciation and Lu walked away to make way for the last gift giver, or rather, givers. Kiba, Kyoku, Yanda, Fuku and Mu. Yanda was also holding the phone that Amai was FaceTiming on.
The six of us worked together to create this masterful gift. Kiba said as she took out a large book.
Take a look at this. She handed Yami the book, and he opened it up. And found a wonderfully illustrated picture of his first time meeting Izuku.
The playing catch with him part and not the kidnapping part. On the same page was another illustration of him first calling Izuku daddy. Then on the next page was him first trying steak, and then it was him naming his Grimm with Kiba and Fu. He started flipping through the book, he saw more passionately drawn images of important memories. Him going out into the city and meeting Amai, his cooking lessons with Fuku and Izuku. Him sitting down and coming up with Grimm ideas with the others. Even him helping everyone with game development. Me and Yanda came up with the idea, Kyoku and Amai helped get all the moments we needed, and Mu and Fuku drew the whole book, Kiba explained proudly. At first I was worried I wouldn't be able to get you anything good, but when they called me and asked me to tell them about the time we spent together, I knew you'd love it.
Amai said. So what do you think? Did we get it right? I really hope he likes it. I spent a whole night making that.
Fuku thought as she forced herself not to appear tired.
Yami didn't respond at first, he just spent a few more moments flipping through the book.
After a couple minutes, Yami set down the book, hopped off the throne, and opened his arms.
Hug, all of you.
They didn't need any further prompting, and almost everyone jumped onto Yami and initiated a massive group hug.
Ah. Yami smiled. I love life. Chapter 216, Edge of the Eye. It was the final night of the Yami birthday celebration. All the guests had gone home, and now only the kids and the staff remained. Almost everyone was in the kitchen, enjoying some desserts they'd bought from Sato's parents' bakery. All except for the birthday boy himself, who was with his father up in his office, eating ice cream. So, what did you think of your birthday? Izuku asked as he watched his son happily eat up his dessert. Fun, Yami responded with a mouthful of ice cream. Lots of fun. Izuku smiled. I'm glad. Honestly, I was worried about it since the decision to celebrate your birthday was so sudden, speaking of which. I'm sorry again that I had to do this. I don't like having to decide your birthday as a strategic move. It's fine, Yami said, having had this conversation with his father quite a few times now. He was more than happy to be of help to his father, and it's not like they knew when his real birthday was anyway, nor did it make the celebration any worse. It was still fun. I was very happy. Yami had underestimated just how much he'd like a celebration based around him. Not for any self-absorbed reason, although it did feel nice to be appreciated. No, the real reason was that he got to see how happy he made everyone. He'd made his family happy, and so they wanted to show how much that meant to them, and their feelings got through. If Yami were the type of person to get overly emotional, he might have cried when he got that book. Memories, Yami said out loud. I made good memories today. I have a lot of good memories. I want more. If Yami had to pinpoint the only parts of his birthday that he didn't like, it was that Niz and Sheena were uncomfortable. He wanted to spend more time with them and get to know them, so that way next year, they would be able to fully enjoy themselves at his party. In fact, why stop there? Kiba and the others had said they'd make a second book next year, filled with all of the new memories he'd make. He wanted that book to be even bigger than this one. Way bigger. So he'd need to make all kinds of memories with everyone. But of course, the biggest obstacle to that was the villains. Not only would they try to take away his precious friends and siblings, as well as kill his dad, but they were also the reason they couldn't leave the Foundation ground. He hoped tomorrow would be the last day he'd have to worry about them. Well then, since things are winding down, I guess it's time I finally give you my present, Izuku said. Izuku stood up and went over to his desk, opening a drawer and pulling something out. Then he rose back up, revealing the gift. A small, extremely well-made statue of a Nevermore. This is what brought me to you, and you to me, Izuku said as he brought the statue to Yami. So it's only right that this be my gift to you for your first birthday at the Foundation. Yami smiled as he took the statue. It feels like a dream. My old life. I can relate, Izuku said with a smile. But in the end, I think that's a good thing. At least for the most part. Giving you all lives so wonderful your old ones just feel like bad dreams. I'd say that's a sign that I'm doing my job well. Hopefully what happens tomorrow will just be yet another far-off bad dream in time. When are we going? Yami asked. Tonight. After dessert. I don't want to take any risks. Izuku said. We don't know at what time the attack will start, so I can't risk doing it early in the morning. It has to be tonight. Yami nodded. Okay, I think it will be hard to sleep. Izuku sighed. Definitely. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
a good distance away from the house. There they laid witness to a big surprise, with emphasis on the big. A whale grim, over half the length of their house, and wider than 3 football fields put together. It appeared to be half whale, half building, as it had doors and ramps on its sides. Next to it were a bunch of airships, which staff bots were loading their things onto. While many of the kids were in awe at the huge grim, others were concerned, seeing their things get taken away and loaded onto the ships, as they knew there was no way that could mean anything good. What on earth is this? Since when could Yami make creatures of this size? Kiba shouted out in shock and awe. This is thanks to the negative energy magnet that Dr. Akira designed, Mai explained, as she oversaw the robot's work.
Thanks to that, we've been able to give Yami much more energy than he normally has access to. Hence, Monstra. This is where you'll be sleeping tonight, and where you'll be staying during the attack, Izuku said. Attack? Fu said.
Izuku sighed, as he got ready to explain. Tomorrow, it's very likely that the villains are going to attack the Foundation.
What?
Shouted several of the kids in shock. Pretty much all of them except for Yami and Yanda, who knew of this ahead of time, and Fu, who was Fu.
That's why you're all going to be inside Monstra tomorrow. Away from all the fighting. Izuku told them.
I'm going to hide you all up there inside the clouds, with all of our stuff hidden up there too. Unfortunately, I can't move you off the Foundation grounds without people noticing, but you should be safe. But just in case, I'm having Sai go up there to watch over all of you, and protect you if need be.
But what if you need her? Nara asked. Shouldn't she be fighting down here?
Unfortunately, my quirk won't be of any use down on the ground, Sai said.
Once Kurogiri warps everyone in, we'll be activating an anti-warp generator, which will keep them from using any warp quirks.
Unfortunately, it will also keep me from using my quirk.
Which is why I'll be up there with you. Wait, why don't we have one of those anti-warp things up with us? Natsu asked.
Too big. Monstra wouldn't be able to fly with something like that inside it.
Mai explained.
We're still working on shrinking it, but unfortunately, we don't have any time.
Our only hope is to hide you away.
Unfortunately, the only place we can hide you is out of the generator's range.
Hence the need for protection. What about you? Eri asked. Are you coming with us? Izuku gave her a sad smile. Unfortunately, that's not an option. I'll be the one leading the battle on the ground. Well, closer to the ground. I'm their main focus. If they don't know where I am during the battle, they're going to try to find me. Which could lead them to finding you. And I can't allow that.
But Dash Ken was about to object, but Izuku cut him off. No buts, this has all already been planned out in advance, Izuku told them.
And I have no intention of changing anything. So just get in the whale, and sit tight. And what if they come for us? Lu asked. Then you fight. Izuku told them sternly.
Those who can fight, protect those who can't.
And just focus on survival.
Sai will call me if anything happens, and if she doesn't call me every 20 minutes, or if she says you're under attack, I'll send reinforcements.
So don't try and do anything stupid. Sai, I'm trusting you. Keep them all safe.
Understood, sir, Sai said, giving him a bow before turning towards the children.
Everyone, get in the whale. The kids started hesitantly moving towards Monstra, many giving worried looks at Izuku. And all Izuku could do was give them the most reassuring smile he could manage. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. It was a rare sight. The Cold Clan all together. All four of the main members sat at a round table. At the head of the table was the head of the family, Rura Samui aka King Cold. A large, muscled man in a suit. His skin was blue, and he had slick black hair, with two horns coming out the side of his head. He also possessed a lizard-like tail, coming out from above his butt. On his right side, his youngest and favorite son, Ryotoko Samui, aka Frieza. He was much smaller than his father. In fact, he was pretty short in general, and nowhere as masculine. His skin was bone white, and he had short blue hair. Much like his father, he also possessed a tail. Next was the former boss of the Cold Clan, Kairu Samui, aka Chilled. He was a very short old man, about as tall as most children, and he had blue skin much like his son. Also like his son, he had horns and a tail, although his hair was orange rather than black. Finally, there was King Cold's eldest son, Quora Samui, aka Cooler. Aside from his father, he was the tallest, a little above average height, although he had a rather lanky build.
He had his father's blue skin, and his brother's blue hair, as well as the longest tail out of all of them.
Ah, it's good to see you all again. Father. My sons. King Cold said to start the meeting.
As I'm sure all of you are aware of by now, we will be participating in the raid against the Midoriya Foundation.
We'd be foolish not to.
The resources and technology of the Midoriya Foundation should belong to none other than the Cold Clan.
Chilled cackled.
Yes, which is why all of us will be participating in the attack, ourselves. King Cold revealed, much to the surprise of his family.
What?
Father,
what is the point of having underlings, if we have to dirty our hands with such labor? Frieza objected.
I for one wholeheartedly agree with this decision.
Cooler peeked up. We can't afford to lose this opportunity because of incompetent underlings. Frieza scoffed. Oh please, like anyone cares for your opinion, brother.
And besides, that's very easy for you to say, considering your method of fighting is sitting back and piloting your little toys.
Frieza, there are things one must do themselves if they wish to succeed. King Cold chided.
And besides, we won't be part of the normal troops.
No.
My dear friend All For One has seen through Midoriya's ploy. He's well aware of this attack and plans to take care of our forces, while hiding away his children and resources. While he's distracted taking on the army we'll bring to his doorstep, All For One will search for where Midoriya is hiding them, and send us to retrieve them.
Leaving everyone to die, while we reap the rewards, that's my boy.
Chilled cackled evilly. Humph, well that's better than being among an army of insects, so I suppose I will lend you my aid.
Frieza chuckled. Do you hear, brother?
Rejoice, once we get our hands on the Midoriya Foundation's technology, you won't be entirely useless.
Ah ha 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 ha. Cooler grit his teeth, but stayed silent. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. TCH. That damn brat.
Cooler hissed as he worked on a small piece of technology with a tool in his hand. With the meeting over, Cooler returned to his lab and was now making sure everything would be ready for the big day. He heard the door to his lab open, but he didn't bother turning.
He already knew who entered. How was the meeting? Asked his cousin, Frost.
Frost resembled Frieza quite a bit, with the only real difference being that he was slightly taller and his skin was blue.
Aside from the usual embarrassment, quite well.
Cooler sighed.
Father wants us to have more direct involvement with the raid like I wanted. And I didn't even need to humiliate myself by begging. How convenient. That means our plan is well on its way. Frost smirked. I do hope Midoriya doesn't disappoint us. I doubt it, Cooler said. Midoriya's defenses will be fierce, I guarantee it.
Which means we just need to do our part, and we'll have one.
And the others don't suspect us?
Frost asked.
Doubtful, and even if they do, they likely won't take us seriously enough for the plan to be affected, Cooler said.
Soon Frost.
Soon we will be the ones on top. Of course, after all, brains have always triumphed over brawn.
Frost chuckled.
That will be it for this part.
I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 40.
If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.